Welcome to our latest Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Today we're headed to Taos, New Mexico. Taos, New Mexico has a long and rich history that dates back thousands of years. The Taos Pueblo, which is located just a little bit north of town, is one of the oldest continuously inhabited communities in the United States. It is believed that the Pueblo was founded around 1000 AD by the Tiwa people. The first Europeans to arrive in Taos were members of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado's expedition in 1540. They were impressed by the size and beauty of the Pueblo, and they named the area Taos, which is the Spanish word for adobe. In the 17th century, Taos became an important trading center for the Spanish and Pueblo people. The Taos Trail, which was a branch of the Santa Fe Trail, connected Taos to other parts of New Mexico and the American Southwest. Along the way, we'll see many historic buildings, many of them newer, as we walk through Taos, New Mexico. One of the first buildings we see here on Taos Plaza is the Hotel Fonda. There's been a hotel at this location since 1820. The first establishment, called the St. Vrain Mercantile Store, supplied locals and travelers with everything from tack and seed to rooms in a saloon. In 1880, the Columbia Hotel and Bar was built on this site and was a popular gathering place. In 1900, Robert and Niclovia Poole purchased the hotel and bar and ran it until Robert was shot by a disgruntled customer in 1909. Poole's heirs sold the property to the care of his brothers in 1932, and a major renovation occurred in 1937. At that time, they changed the name to the Hotel La Fonda de Taos. In the 19th century, Taos became a popular destination for artists and writers. Many famous artists, including Georgia O'Keeffe and the photographer Ansel Adams, lived and worked in Taos. Today, you'll see dozens, if not more than 50, various art galleries and bookstores and many things related to art in the Taos area. In 1932, the Taos County Courthouse, along with other buildings here on the north side of the plaza, was destroyed by one of a series of fires in the early 1930s. This led eventually to the incorporation of the town of Taos in 1939 and the creation of a fire department and public water system. The current Spanish Pueblo-style courthouse was built with partial funding from the WPA in 1934. We're now headed towards Our Lady of Guadalupe Church. The Franciscans founded the first mission in the Taos Valley in the late 1500s. This was destroyed during the Pueblo revolt of 1680. After 1693, when the Spanish came back into the area, a mission was refounded as St. Geronimo de Taos at Taos Pueblo. As settlement continued, the first Spanish church was built at Rancho de Taos around 1776. By the decree of November 1801, Bishop Oliveros of Durango gave the people of Taos permission to build a new church in Taos Valley. The new church, which was named Nuestra Senora de Guadalupe, was built in the early 1800s. Over the years, there have been 3 Guadalupe church buildings in this area. All 3 churches were built of adobe bricks. The original church was located south of the current Don Fernando site in what is now the Guadalupe Plaza. In 1911, due to disrepair and limited size, the church was torn down and a new church was built in a more Gothic style. It was destroyed in a fire in 1961. After that disaster, the church was moved here across the street to its current location. Fortunately, many elements of the old church were salvaged, including the altar screen and several santos. We're now heading towards the Guadalupe Plaza. This was once a thriving village that included the original Guadalupe Church of the 1800s. The oldest building on the commercial block was built around 1870. This home that we're seeing here is the Santa Stephen House. It was located on the north end of the block, and it may be the oldest residence on the block. It was already built when Don Jose de la Cruz, Santa Stephen, and his wife Donna Maria arrived from Spain in the early 1800s. They first settled in Las Colinas and raised 5 children. The estate on Donna Luisa eventually became their winter home.
Right, stand up. Big time too. Freak him out all the time.
We're now heading towards the Long John Dunn house. In 1887, John Dunn arrived in Taos. He had evaded the law in Texas and was looking for someplace to settle for a while. Over the years, John Dunn opened up 4 saloons, a gambling hall, a livery stable, and built a house here on Bent Street. He bought the bridge at Taos Junction from a man named Myers and the new bridge at Manby Springs and Ariola Honda from Miller and Gustorf. Both bridges were wiped out by floods, but John Dunn rebuilt the bridges and contracted with the post office to run daily mail service from Tres Pedros to Taos. Long John Dunn's lanky 6-foot frame, spicy vocabulary, broken nose twang, and diverse range of business interests made him a legend in northern New Mexico. He was one of the people who lived through 3 phases of the West: the gunfighting days, the cattle working days, and the present modern West. He died in 1955. Here to the right, just in this little plaza, is the Governor Bent House. Charles Bent was appointed governor of New Mexico in 1846 when New Mexico became an American territory during the war between the United States and Mexico. On a visit to his home in Taos in January of 1847, he was killed by an angry mob that was protesting American rule. His wife and children did survive the attack. Charles Bent was a highly respected, much-loved figure of the Old West. He was a trader and owned a number of wagon trains on the Santa Fe Trail. He owned trading posts in the Santa Fe and Taos and had many dealings with early mountain men, providing them with supplies and buying their furs and buffalo hides. Many of these small homes that we see along the way were once owned by famous artists, or where artists lived to do their work while they were in Taos, including such noted artists as Bert Phillips. Bert Phillips was an artist who was born in 1868 and lived in 1956, and he had quite a reputation as one of the artists that came out to the Taos village here. Here on our left side, we're walking past the Taos Inn. This particular building was originally owned by the town doctor, Dr. T.P. Martin, who purchased one house and a small cluster of adobes, originally putting them all back together in around the 1800s to build one complex. This particular hotel was once apartment buildings where many artists once lived and worked. When Doc Martin died in 1933, the building was taken over by his wife, and she remodeled the apartments into a hotel. Many notables such as Greta Garbo, the writer Thornton Wilder, and actor Anthony Quinn stayed at this hotel. Ahead of us and to our right is the El Rincon Trading Post. Built in 1809, this was the home of La Donna Luis in the mid-1800s. It later became the home of Ralph and Rowena Myers, who opened the mission shop in 1909. This was the first trading post in Taos that carried Native American arts and crafts of the region. Ralph would travel the area and surrounding reservations, buying and trading with knowledge and understanding. Few white men were as well loved and accepted by the Taos Pueblo Indians as Ralph was. Ralph was an artist, trader, and craftsman in his own right. Ralph and Rowena Myers were responsible for adding much to Taos by preserving the costumes and traditions of the time within his collection. During the 19th century, a number of the fur trappers or mountain men came to town. The first to explore the area was Kit Carson, and he was probably one of the most famous. Just off to our left is his home. Carson was born in Kentucky in 1809 and became a trapper, a guide, an Indian agent, and an army officer. Our final stop today on our tour of Taos, New Mexico is the San Francisco de Asís Mission Church. This is one of the oldest and most important Spanish missions in the United States. The church was built in the 17th century by Spanish missionaries and Pueblo Indians. It's a beautiful example of Spanish colonial architecture. The church is made of adobe and has a simple, unadorned exterior. The interior of the church is decorated with murals and paintings. The church is still in use today.
Everything that we say and think, not only in this rehearsal, but at the celebration tomorrow, we always wait for your greater honor and glory. We pray that we will be blessed in so many ways, especially through the sign of marriage, which is a sign of your love in the world. We pray that in all things we may always strive to love and love you above all things and love and serve our neighbor. And we continue to do that in this time of rehearsal and in the celebration. So, we ask the Lord to
I hope you've enjoyed your Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure today in Taos, New Mexico. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next walk. Take care now. Bye.